Hello and welcome back to DevPulse. This week I wanted to take a different route, and instead of bringing game dev news to you all, I wanted to talk about Spellcasters Chronicles. It's an upcoming free-to-play, team-based third-person action strategy game. I was fortunate enough to have been granted access to the ongoing beta tests, and I have to admit, I had a lot of fun, but in this episode, I will try and answer the question: can it be good? Spellcasters Chronicles is a third-person 3v3 or a MOBA-like game, to make it simple. It's developed by Quantic Dream, which is known for multiple-choice narrative-driven games like Detroit Become Human or Heavy Rain. They even have highly anticipated Star Wars Eclipse in development. So, how come Quantic Dream went for a MOBA-like title? In 2022, they partnered with NetEase, a Chinese developer known for Marvel Rivals, which is currently celebrating its first anniversary. From a business perspective, such a detour is understandable, despite concerns about how fans might react. Quantic Dream is looking for a niche in the ungrateful yet highly promising live service segment. From my personal yet not so extensive experience, I think I understand what they are going for. On one hand, it's trying to be an action strategy game, but it eventually comes down to being MOBA like League of Legends, Paradox or Smite. I think it's due to the main attraction of this game not being fleshed out enough, deck building. And to be completely honest, that's not a good nor a bad thing. Deck building can be overwhelming at first, and having people play a few rounds to get to know the level, the mechanics, etc. can be enough for the beta. But at the same time, in the long run, I would love to see more about the deck building, even though I can see it being a blocker for more casual players. The characters are introduced as those unique mages, and the game are divided into 3 classes, but I'll talk about it a bit more later. It's all about execution and the gameplay loop. The matches intend to last 20 to 25 minutes, which I appreciate that they respect my time, and this dictates a more dynamic experience. So the first match I queued in blindly. I wanted to have as little experience as possible. All I did was watch the intro video. It goes over the basics. You spawn creatures, enemy spawns creatures, you fight over a control point with interesting traversal options. The first impression was pure chaos. You're thrown into the game instantly, and to be honest, all I did was familiarize myself with my character and explored the map. I summoned the big giant, and before I noticed my base was being raided, the match was over. And even though I lost, it was quite fun, I have to admit. But I wanted to see if I can have fun again, knowing what to expect. So, I began experimenting with the deck building, because in the game, as in many MOBAs, half of the fun comes from the prep phase. This type of thinking was only reinforced when I realized there are only 3 classes or types of spellcasters. Currently there are enchanters, conquerors and duelists. Having only 3 of those for 3 players in each team makes the possibilities quite limited, and so I think the focus should be more on your loadout in real-time strategy rather than the spellcaster himself. And in that, this game can excel. Different types of creatures, builds, abilities, and even special buildings tied to a certain build path is all that MOBAs do great. I was surprised how fun it actually was to dive into the deck building system and see what types of minions and buffs I can generate, which reminded me of another game, StarCraft. The key element in the gameplay also comes when you summon the giant, which I think is a great addition and fits the game identity of large-scale RTS. However, in MOBA, it didn't feel so exciting to summon it, since it somewhat happened passively. I mentioned earlier that even the characters you play, in my opinion, despite their very interesting design, are not the main focus. It's not that they lack soul or the VFX are bad or anything like that. They just are there, which to me is perfectly fine, but would it be enough for other people to get them to stay and play as much as League of Legends, Dota, or something like Overwatch or Marvel Rivals? I'm not sure. Keep in mind that free-to-play games rely heavily on skins and battle passes to earn a living, so having a strong character design to drain players' wallets is incredibly important. And since other elements seem too important to be changed constantly with different skins, it leaves Spellcasters to be the main customization and microtransaction focus. And now to the less fun part. The game has some problems, which I am optimistic about, but at the same time I am aware they need a lot of work. The first one being, there's very little combat. You have very little incentive to engage in combat. There are no significant rewards for killing an enemy. You can fly indefinitely, which also encourages roaming, but at the same time it is pretty much a waste of time due to constant back and forth on your lane. So if you enjoy laning in other MOBAs, then yeah, sure, this game will be for you. But there are no objectives on the map to teamfight for, so I can imagine this part of the loop becoming stale very quickly. In other games, laning or roaming is interrupted by bigger objectives that give buffs. Invading enemy's side of the map can even be a tactical decision. Here, there's almost nothing like that. You get a chest from time to time with different type of buff, but it's not big enough. The constant flying is simply a movement style rather than a feature. And the second thing is communication. There are no pings, no voice chat or a regular chat in the game, which can be frustrating. Communicating with your teammates is non-existent, and as far as I'm aware, every competitive game has some sort of comms. I would not assume that MOBA players will look at the minimap, which will be frustrating, because there is no way to ask for help, to warn anybody of anything, and with roaming being so dynamic, it would be great to have some sort of way to warn your ally of an upcoming gank. Next thing is performance, which is not a surprise people are struggling with. There are a lot of highly detailed minions on the map being spawned and despawned all the time. Steam community page is filled with complaints about that. I personally have experienced a fair amount of lags, both during fighting enemies or simple moving around the map. I believe they can be and should be ironed out. However, I do not envy the developers of this task. And the next thing, the deck building is not fleshed out as I think it should. A core mechanic like this feels a bit omitted and thrown to the side, but perhaps I'm nitpicking here because it's a beta. And lastly, my concern comes from another source as well. I'm simply not sure whether Spellcasters Chronicles won't fall victim to the same illness that has taken down many otherwise well-made online games: genericness and anonymity. The giants of hero games, hero shooters, MOBAs, etc. had that magical something. They were over the top, unbelievable, but the heroes were memorable, even if they were often walking rip-offs or figures inspired by or simply adapted from other media. Here, the Spellcasters, even though cool during gameplay, do not stand out. So can it be good? Spellcasters Chronicles already shows genuine potential. The gameplay loop can be fun, the deck building system has surprising depth, and the 20 to 25 minute match time respects the player's schedule. The fusion of RTS style minion summoning with MOBA-like map control is fresh enough to stand out, and the core idea of building your own creature loadout could become a real selling point if Quantic Dream chooses to lean into it. But potential alone isn't enough. Right now, the game struggles with lack of incentives to fight, a static and underdeveloped deck building system, communication issues, and major performance problems. Most importantly, the Spellcasters themselves risk blending into the background in a free-to-play live service title where memorable heroes literally define the game's identity. That's a real danger. So can it be good? Absolutely. If Quantic Dream sharpens the core mechanics, embraces meaningful combat, invests in strong character identity, and overhauls communication tools. They've already built a solid foundation. The question is whether they can shape it into something with its own soul, and not just another decent but forgettable online game. For now, Spellcasters Chronicles sits in that exciting but fragile space where one or two bold decisions could elevate it or leave it lost among the many live service games that never found their spark. So, if you enjoyed this type of content, leave a like and let me know in the comments what do you think about Spellcasters Chronicles. Until next time, see ya!